I opened the apartment door and nothing but my oversized sweatshirt, the kind that barely skimmed my thighs. It wasn't intentional. I'd been expecting the pizza guy, not her. She stood there, tall and poised, with a sharp bob haircut framing her angular face, wearing a sleek white lab coat over fitted scrubs. A stethoscope hung loosely around her neck like an afterthought. Her eyes met mine, not with the detached professionalism of a doctor, but with a lingering gaze that made me feel exposed in ways the sweatshirt couldn't hide. For a moment, the pounding headache from my migraine faded, replaced by a different kind of throb deep in my chest. She stepped inside without waiting for an invitation, closing the door with a quiet click. "You sounded rough on the phone," she said, her voice smooth and commanding. "Let's get you out of that sweatshirt so I can examine you properly." I hesitated, my fingers gripping the hem. And damn it, I didn't pull away. If you're a lesbian who's ever craved someone off limits, someone who could unravel everything with just a look, stick around. This one's for you. Let's rewind to that evening. The apartment was a mess, lit only by the soft glow of a string of fairy lights I'd forgotten to turn off. Empty coffee mugs cluttered the coffee table, alongside scattered painkillers I hadn't bothered taking because nothing touched this headache. I'd been battling it for days, but it wasn't just the physical pain gnawing at me. Lately there was this hollow ache in my soul, a secret I'd buried so deep even my girlfriend didn't know about it. I'd called the on-demand medical service in desperation, not expecting them to send someone like her. She set her medical bag down on the floor with the ease of someone who'd navigated chaotic spaces before. I tugged the sweatshirt down, trying to cover more, but her eyes had already wandered, and a traitorous part of me thrilled at the attention. "I need to check your vitals first," she said, stepping closer. Her tone was professional, but there was an undercurrent, warm, almost inviting, that made my skin prickle. She pulled out a digital thermometer and gently placed it under my tongue. As it beeped, her fingers grazed my jawline, lingering just a beat too long. "You're flushed," she murmured, her breath close enough to stir the loose strands of my hair. I mumbled around the thermometer. "It's been bad all day." Our eyes locked, and in that instant, something electric sparked, something that had no place in a house call. She removed the thermometer, frowning at the reading. 101.8, that's high. Lie down on the couch. I complied, easing back onto the cushions. The sweatshirt rode up slightly, exposing the curve of my thigh. I adjusted it hastily, but not before I caught the subtle shift in her expression, a flicker of hunger that mirrored my own growing heat. She knelt beside me, her presence filling the small space. "I'm going to listen to your lungs," she explained, her hand slipping under the fabric to press the stethoscope against my chest. But it wasn't just the cold metal. Her palm followed, warm and steady, resting there longer than necessary. I inhaled sharply, my heart racing not from the migraine but from the intimacy of her touch. "Breathe deeply," she instructed. I did, my exhale shaky. She met my gaze, her face inches from mine. "Your pulse is elevated." I tried to laugh it off. "Must be the headache." But her hand slid lower, tracing the edge of my ribcage. "Or maybe it's something else," she said softly, her voice laced with implication. I swallowed, my throat dry. "Is this standard procedure?" She didn't reply. Instead, she rose gracefully, her eyes sweeping over me as she rolled up her sleeves, revealing toned forearms marked with a faint tattoo, a swirl of ink that hinted at stories untold. "I should examine your neck and shoulders. Migraines can stem from tension there." I nodded, though my mind screamed warnings. The sweatshirt slipped open a fraction more as I shifted, and her fingers found my skin again, starting at my collarbone and drifting downward. Her touch was deliberate now, pressing into the muscles along my sides, then venturing lower toward my abdomen. "Tell me if this feels tender," she said, her hand circling slowly, dipping just beneath the hem of the sweatshirt. My body responded instinctively, a warmth pooling that had nothing to do with fever. She paused at the waistband of my leggings, her fingers hovering, teasing the boundary. The room felt smaller, the air thick with unspoken tension. "Any discomfort?" she asked, her eyes dark and intense. "No," I whispered, my voice betraying me. "It feels good." Her lips curved into a subtle smile, and she leaned in closer. "You're not stopping me," she observed, her breath warm against my ear. "I don't want to," I admitted, the words tumbling out before I could cage them. Something ignited then, a mutual recklessness. She exhaled, withdrawing her hand momentarily, only to stand and position herself behind the couch. "Turn over. I need to check your back for any knots." I rolled onto my stomach, the sweatshirt bunching up, leaving my lower back exposed. She straddled the edge of the couch, her hands gliding up my spine, kneading with expert pressure that blurred the line between medical and sensual. I arched slightly, a soft moan escaping despite myself. "You all right?" she asked, her voice husky. I nodded into the cushion. She leaned down, her lips brushing the nape of my neck. "Tell me to stop if you want." But I didn't. Instead, I pressed back against her, craving more. And then she kissed me there, right at the base of my neck. Not a peck, but a lingering press of lips that sent shivers cascading down my body. Her hands roamed freely now, one slipping around to my front, tracing patterns across my stomach. No pretense of examination left. "You're so tense," she whispered, her mouth trailing to my shoulder. I turned my head, our faces close, and she captured my lips in a kiss that was anything but clinical. It was fierce, demanding, tasting of forbidden fruit. My hands found her hair, pulling her closer as the world narrowed to just us. Her fingers danced lower, slipping under the waistband of my leggings, exploring with a confidence that made me gasp. "I've thought about this since you described your symptoms on the call," she confessed between kisses. "You sounded so vulnerable, so in need." I melted under her words, her touch igniting fires I'd long suppressed. "You don't know anything about me," I breathed. "I know enough," she replied. "I know you're aching for more than relief from a headache." Her hand delved deeper, finding the core of my desire, stroking with a rhythm that had me arching off the couch. It was wrong, so damn wrong. But in that moment, it felt like salvation. No shame, just pure, unfiltered want. But then, a sharp vibration shattered the haze. My phone buzzed on the side table, the screen lighting up with sweetie and a heart emoji. My girlfriend. I stiffened, reality crashing back. She saw it too, her hand freezing. "Answer it," she said, pulling away abruptly. But I couldn't move, paralyzed by guilt. "I didn't invite you here for this," I stammered. She didn't speak, just watched me with a mix of regret and longing. The phone rang again, then went silent. The quiet stretched, heavy and accusing. "You don't owe me an explanation," she finally said, reaching for her bag. I caught her arm. "Don't go, please." She searched my face, then set the bag down. "Are you sure? This could complicate things." I nodded fiercely. "I need you to stay." Hesitation flickered, but she relented, stepping back toward me. Her fingers found the hem of my sweatshirt, lifting it slowly over my head. It hit the floor, leaving me bare from the waist up. She drank in the sight, her eyes hungry. "Beautiful," she murmured, kneeling again. Her lips followed her gaze, kissing a trail from my collarbone downward, each one deliberate and searing. I surrendered completely, my hands tangling in her hair as she explored. She tugged at my leggings, sliding them down inch by inch, exposing more of me. Her touch was everywhere, gentle yet insistent, coaxing responses I'd forgotten I could feel. "Let me make you feel better," she whispered, her mouth venturing lower, teasing the sensitive skin of my inner thighs. I gasped, my back arching as her fingers joined, delving into me with expert precision. The migraine was a distant memory. All that existed was this building crescendo, her breath hot against me, her tongue tracing paths that made stars explode behind my eyes. She held me there, on the edge, whispering encouragements that unraveled my last threads of resistance. "You're so responsive," she said, her voice muffled against my skin, "like you've been waiting for this." And I had, without realizing it. The ache inside wasn't just physical, it was emotional. A yearning for connection I'd denied for too long in my relationship. We lost ourselves in the rhythm, her movements syncing with my breaths, pushing me higher until I shattered. Crying out her name? Wait, I didn't even know her name. "Dr. Elena," she supplied with a chuckle, as if reading my mind before resuming with renewed fervor. Time blurred. Minutes stretched into what felt like hours of exploration. She shed her lab coat, revealing the curves beneath her scrubs, inviting my hands to roam in return. I traced her tattoos, kissed the hollow of her throat, reveling in the mutual vulnerability. It was more than physical. It was a confession, a release of secrets in the dim light of my apartment. But paradise cracked with a thunderous knock on the door. We both froze, mid-embrace. Another knock, insistent. Then a voice, sharp and familiar. "Open the damn door!" I know she's in there. I saw her car outside. My girlfriend. Panic surged through me. "Hide!" I hissed, scrambling for my sweatshirt. Elena stood, smoothing her clothes, eyes wide. "She's in there. I saw her car outside." My girlfriend. Panic surged through me. "Hide!" I hissed, scrambling for my sweatshirt. Elena stood, smoothing her clothes, eyes wide with alarm. "I should leave through the back," she suggested. But it was too late. The door burst open. I'd forgotten she'd had a key. There stood Mia, my girlfriend of 3 years, her face a mask of betrayal. She took in the scene. Me half-dressed, flushed and disheveled. Elena standing awkwardly with her bag. The air thick with the scent of our indiscretion. Silence hung like a noose. Mia's eyes flicked between us. Then she let out a bitter laugh. "I canceled my meeting because you texted you were dying from a migraine. And this is what I find? A checkup?" Her voice dripped sarcasm. I began, but she cut me off. Just don't." She turned on her heel and stormed out, the door slamming this time. I collapsed onto the couch, tears stinging my eyes. Elena hesitated, then sat beside me. "Are you okay?" she asked gently, her hand on my shoulder. Not seductive now, but comforting. I shook my head. This wasn't supposed to happen. "Life rarely follows the script," she replied softly. "But I'm here if you want me to be." I looked at her, the woman who just turned my world upside down, and whispered, "Stay. Please stay." She did. We talked through the night. About my fading relationship, her own lonely nights on call, the spark that had ignited so unexpectedly. By dawn, the migraine was gone, but the complications were just beginning. And yet, in her arms, I felt a glimmer of something real, something worth the chaos. I never thought a simple fever would unravel my life like this. It started innocently enough, or at least that's what I told myself. My name is Jordan Ellis, and I'm a high school history teacher in a quiet suburb outside Seattle. 32 years old, in a relationship that's been coasting on autopilot for the last year with my boyfriend. Mark. He's the accountant, steady and predictable. The kind of guy who plans vacations 6 months in advance. Me? I've always been the one with the restless heart, burying it under lesson plans and parent-teacher conferences. But that night, the restlessness caught up to me. It was a Tuesday in late fall, rain pounding against the windows like it was trying to wash away the world. I'd been fighting off what felt like the flu for days. Chills, aches, a cough that wouldn't quit. Mark was out of town for a conference, so I was alone in our cozy 2-bedroom house, wrapped in a blanket on the couch, scrolling through my phone. That's when I saw the ad for the house call service. Expert medical care at your door. Discreet, professional 24/7. I didn't think twice. I booked an appointment, described my symptoms, and waited. An hour later, there was a knock. I shuffled to the door in my sweatpants and an old t-shirt, feeling like death warmed over. When I opened it, there he was, Dr. Ethan Ramirez, according to the name tag on his crisp white coat. Tall, with dark hair slicked back just enough to look effortless. Olive skin and eyes that were a deep brown, almost black in the porch light. He carried a black medical bag, and his smile was professional but warm, like he actually cared about showing up at a stranger's house at 10 p.m. "Mr. Ellis? I'm Dr. Ramirez. Mind if I come in?" His voice was smooth, with a faint trace of an accent. Spanish, maybe? I nodded and stepped aside, suddenly self-conscious about the mess in the living room. Takeout containers on the coffee table, a half-empty glass of water. He set his bag down and pulled out a stethoscope, thermometer, the usual tools. "Let's get you checked out. Sit down, please." I obeyed, perching on the edge of the couch. He took my temperature, 102 degrees, listened to my lungs, checked my throat. All very clinical, until his hands brushed my neck while feeling for swollen glands. His touch was firm but gentle, and something about it sent a spark through me. I chalked it up to the fever. "You're dehydrated and running a low-grade infection," he said, packing up his tools. "I'll prescribe some antibiotics and fluids. Rest up, and you should be fine in a few days." He handed me a script and started to leave. But then he paused, looking at me with those intense eyes. "You live alone?" "My boyfriend's out of town," I said, too quickly. Why did I mention that? He nodded. No judgment, but there was a flicker in his expression. Curiosity? Concern? "Call if it gets worse," he said. And then he was gone, leaving me with a prescription and a strange emptiness in the room. The next night, the fever spiked again. I tried to tough it out, but by midnight, I was shivering uncontrollably. I called the service back, requesting the same doctor if possible. Half an hour later, another knock. Ethan again, looking a bit more rumpled this time, like he'd been pulled from his own evening. "Worse?" he asked, stepping inside without waiting for an invitation. I nodded, collapsing back onto the couch. He went through the motions again, but this time, his examination felt different. Slower. When he pressed the stethoscope to my chest, his hand lingered a second too long. "Breathe deep," he murmured, close enough that I could smell his cologne. Something woody and subtle. I did, but my breath caught. Our eyes met, and the air thickened. "You're tense," he said softly. "Relax." Easier said than done. My mind raced. This is crazy. He's a doctor. I'm in a relationship. But the loneliness I'd been ignoring for months bubbled up. Mark and I hadn't touched like this in ages. Intimate, attentive. Ethan's fingers traced my collarbone as he checked my pulse, and I felt heat pooling in my stomach that had nothing to do with the fever. "You need to loosen up," he said, his voice dropping an octave. "Mind if I help?" I should have said no. Instead, I whispered, "Okay." He started with my shoulders, massaging the knots away. Professional at first, but then his thumbs dipped lower under my shirt. I didn't stop him. His hands were warm, skilled, exploring. Before I knew it, my shirt was off, and he was kneeling in front of me, his mouth following where his hands had been. Kisses down my chest, teasing, questioning. I gasped, threading my fingers through his hair. "This isn't part of the house call," I managed to say. But it came out breathless. He looked up, eyes dark with desire. "Do you want me to stop?" God, no. No. What followed was a blur of heat and urgency. We moved to the couch, clothes shedding like old skin. His body against mine. Strong, lean, marked with a few tattoos I hadn't expected on a doctor. We kissed like we were starving, hands everywhere, breaths mingling. It was feverish, literally and figuratively, but it felt right in that moment. No strings, no promises, just release. Afterward, we lay there, tangled in the blanket. The fever had broken, but something else had ignited. He dressed quietly, but before leaving, he kissed my forehead. "Get some rest, Jordan." The door clicked shut, and I was alone again, heart pounding with a mix of guilt and exhilaration. 2 days passed. The antibiotics kicked in, but the memory of Ethan lingered like a ghost. Mark called, checking in, but our conversation felt hollow. Then on Friday night, another knock, unannounced. I opened the door to find Ethan standing there. No white coat this time, just jeans and a leather jacket, looking vulnerable under the streetlight. "I shouldn't be here," he said, rain dripping from his hair. "But I couldn't stop thinking about you." I pulled him inside before the neighbors could see. The living room felt charged, like a storm about to break. We sat on the couch, close but not touching. Yet. "I'm sorry," I said, breaking the silence. "For letting it happen, for not stopping." He placed his hand over mine, warm and steady. "You didn't do anything wrong. You just let yourself feel." I stared at our hands, fingers brushing. "I don't even know you." "Ethan," he said with a soft smile. "And you're Jordan." Not as impressive without the stethoscope, am I? I laughed, dry and nervous. "You're more intense without it." His eyes softened, no pretense. "What do you want, Jordan?" "No games." I turned to him. "I don't want to be alone tonight." He leaned in slowly, giving me space to pull away. I didn't. Our lips met, gentle this time, exploratory. No rush, just connection. I pulled him closer, his hands on my waist, my shirt slipping off with purpose. He kissed down my neck, chest, stomach, slow, reverent, like he was mapping every inch. I arched into him, fingers in his hair, whispering his name as he took me in his mouth, skilled and patient. Waves of pleasure built, crashing over me until I was spent, gasping. He shed his shirt, revealing a body honed from what looked like gym sessions, and maybe some old scars from life. I traced them with my fingers as he straddled me, our kisses deepening. Skin on skin, breath sinking. But in the heat, doubt crept in. What happens after? He paused, lips hovering over mine. I don't know, but I'm here now. We continued, touching, exploring. His hands on my thighs, pulling me closer. My mouth on his neck. We continued, touching, exploring. His hands on my thighs, pulling me closer. My mouth on his neck, tasting salt and desire. It was intimate, raw, fixing cracks I didn't know I had. Then a sharp rap on the window. We froze. My neighbor, Mrs. Patel from next door, peering in with wide eyes, phone raised. She'd seen everything. Us entangled, half naked. Ethan yanked the blanket over me and stood, shielding. Mrs. Patel scurried away, but the damage was done. He recorded it, I whispered, panic rising. She's always in the neighborhood app gossiping. Ethan paced. Do you know her well? Would she post it? She's retired, bored. Yeah, she might. My chest tightened. Mark will find out. My job, teaching kids. If this gets out, he grabbed my hands. Look at me. You didn't do anything wrong. Don't hide who you are. It's not that easy, I said, voice shaking. He pulled me into a hug, strong and protective. Then let's simplify it. But my phone buzzed. A notification from the neighborhood group chat. Suspicious activity? Who's this with Jordan Ellis? Attached. A blurry photo through the window. Ethan's back, my arms around him, faces half visible but recognizable. My stomach plummeted. Oh God. Ethan glanced at it. We can say it's edited, a deepfake. No more lies, I said. That's what started this. He sat beside me, resolute. I'll take the fall. Say I overstepped as your doctor, that you didn't know. You'd lose everything, your practice, your license. Better me than you ruining your life. My heart ached. He meant it, but I couldn't let him. No more hiding. For either of us, he squeezed my hand. You sure? I'm tired of fear. I want this. I want you, he smiled, genuine. Then let's face the fire together. That night, we didn't resume the passion. We just lay on the couch, hands linked, talking softly about our lives. His long hours, my stagnant relationship, our shared loneliness. It was deeper than sex, a quiet bond forming in the chaos. Morning came too soon. Sunlight filtered through the blinds, my phone exploding with notifications. Texts from friends, more chat speculation. Is that Mr. Ellis from Lincoln High? With a stranger? I silenced it. Ethan stirred beside me, shirtless, using his jacket as a pillow. He looked serene, human. Then, a firm knock at the door. Official. I answered in my robe to two stern figures in suits, one with a badge, the other a folder. Mr. Ellis? We're from the State Medical Licensing Board. We're here for Dr. Ethan Ramirez. We have reports of unlicensed practice. My world tilted. What? The man explained. His license was revoked 2 years ago. Complaints of inappropriate conduct with patients. He's been making unauthorized visits. I turned. Ethan was up, dressed, face ashen. He'd overheard. Ethan, I whispered. Tell me it's not true. He sighed, defeated. I was a doctor. Lost it over a misunderstanding. A patient accused me of getting too personal. I didn't, but the board didn't care. I've been freelancing since. Helping people who need it. Helping? Or using them? The words stung even as I said them. He stepped closer. With you it was different. Not need, want, real. The board agent interrupted. Dr. Ramirez, you need to come with us. There could be charges, fraud, endangerment. Ethan nodded, resigned. But before they cuffed him, I pulled him into a kiss. Fierce, unapologetic. Let them see. They led him away. His last look over his shoulder lingered like a promise. The weeks blurred. The scandal hit local news briefly. Teacher entangled with fake doctor, but faded amid bigger stories. Mark broke up with me via text, unsurprising. My job hung by a thread. The principal gave me a warning but kept me on, citing personal matters. I tried to move on, diving into work, but Ethan haunted my thoughts. His touch, his honesty in the end. Then one evening, an email. No subject, anonymous sender. No white coat this time, but I still want to listen to your stories. Back in town. Same block, different purpose. If you want me, I'm yours. I read it a dozen times, heart racing. Grabbed my keys, walked into the rain. There he was, under a street lamp, waiting. We didn't speak at first. Just embraced, the world falling away. This time no secrets, no fever. Just us, rebuilding from the ashes. The end? Maybe not. If you've ever chased forbidden fire or found truth in the ruins, this one's for you. And if you're queer and crave tales that cut deep, stick around. I've got more brewing.